Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Soil Sanctuary. So today's plan is to get our pepper seedlings potted up into these bigger containers. As you can see, they're growing very well, and we'd like to get the rest of them potted up into these containers. After that, we're gonna head over to the garden, we'll see what we got going on over there, and maybe we'll finally get our snap peas planted. So that's the plan. Let's get started right here by potting up these peppers. So our biggest priority for today is to get our peppers and our eggplants transplanted into bigger pots. The reason for this is because our last expected frost date is April 25th. So these plants are still going to have to be grown indoors for at least the next 6 to 8 weeks. And we don't want the plants to get root bound in these small seedling cells. So we're at the right time now where we have 2 sets of true leaves, so they're ready to go into these new pots. This soil blend that we used here to germinate our seeds is a mixture of 70% peat moss, so there's not a whole lot of nutrition in this soil. So we want to get these plants moved into bigger containers with new soil, with more room for the roots to grow. And again, we'll just pop this guy out. We'll take our plant, and then we're just going to backfill around the sides with our new soil. And we'll press it down a little bit just so that the roots really make contact with the soil. And I forgot to use the inoculant. Oh well, I'm not going to pull this one back out to do that, so I'm sure it'll be okay. We'll do it on the next ones. The mycorrhizal inoculant is a fungi that helps to enhance the overall root system of a plant. I normally use it when I transplant them into the garden beds, but this year I'm using a very fine powdered form during the earlier stages of growth to see if it will help.
All right, well that was a good welcome back from my trip to India, and I came back and all the seedlings were started. So I was really unaware of all of this going on, and the first thing I did when I came back was help transplant. Remind me what's next?
So now that we've got all of our plants done, our next step is to basically watch these grow over the next couple of weeks, and then we will harden them off by slowly transitioning them into the outdoor environment so that when we transplant them into the garden,
They're ready
it's a
for
smooth and easy transition. So now that this is all done, I'd like to show you guys what we've been up to over at the garden. We got our raised beds finished thanks to the help of ChatGPT, and finally going to get those raised beds filled up with our soil blend and get our snap peas. Get our snap peas planted, and also some other cold hardy crops that we have. So let's go head on over to the garden and we'll show you guys what we got going on over there. The last time that I was here, my girlfriend and I came by and we cleaned up the garden. We pulled out some of the plants from last year that were still in the beds. We raked up some of the leaves and the brush that were laying around and kind of just did an overall, garden cleanup to get the garden ready to go for this upcoming growing season.
Gosh, so many testaments to life here. How life wants to live, finding those dead radishes in here. I'm just loosening it up for you.
Okay.
Best day for spring cleaning. I'm gonna go take a break in the greenhouse. I was just gonna hide out here. So it's gonna come out.
Yeah, pull it out. Wow.
It's kind of gratifying. It's like when you're little and you take out the whole Play-Doh, when it comes out perfectly out of the cylinder. All right. Well, I think we have our answer. I have a confession. Because when you were in the garage, I came in here, there was all the dead figs. You left some dried figs up here. And then there were some sticks in there. And then I looked over here and I was like, oh, there's just weeds growing. And I just started to pick them out. And then I realized you're probably growing something. Everything looks very Combine. Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a good bed for you to work on. Everything in here can come out.
Don't you only dig in gardens? Oh my god, I have to go in the greenhouse.
The plan today is to finally get our snap pea boxes filled with soil. So we have to make our soil blend, fill them up, and hopefully by tomorrow, or if not tomorrow, this weekend, I'll be able to get the snap peas planted. I'm using this contractor's paper to line the bottom of my beds with to kill off any grass or weeds. You can also use cardboard, but since I had this laying around, I figured I'd use it. I'm hoping this will be our last batch of soil that we need to make for today. It's been a lot of work so far already, and it makes the job a lot harder having to sift through all of this soil. And to be honest with you, it's probably not completely necessary, but I like to do it just because, especially if you're starting seeds like carrots and lettuce where the seeds are so small, it really makes it hard for those seeds to push up through, you know, these pieces of compost that are not really fully broken down. So I like to avoid the issue from the start, sift it out, and then I'll just add those pieces that aren't broken down to my compost pit so that they do eventually break down. You know, I'm also thinking this might be the last year that I use peat moss, because it's such a pain to have to pre-moisten all the peat moss and then mix it all together with the compost to make sure that it's fully hydrated and saturated all the way through before you put it into the garden bed, because if you don't, it's going to take a long time for the soil or for the water to actually go down and be absorbed fully through the soil. So the process is definitely a very labor-intensive one. I think if I try to do coco coir instead of peat moss, that might help eliminate some of the issues, because coco coir absorbs water a lot faster than peat moss. All right, so we're back in the garden, and it's been about 3 or 4 days, maybe even a week since I've been here. The weather hasn't been so great. It's been cold and cloudy and rainy, but we finally got some sunlight today and some warmer weather, so we're back in the garden. And I brought some seeds with me today, as well as our snap pea and our shelling peas that we're finally going to get planted in the garden. And I'm excited to get these in the ground because we can finally get on our way to harvesting fresh snap peas. And one last thing I want to say, I did bring more seeds with me today. I brought some purple plum radishes, broccoli rabe, coriander or cilantro, more radishes, basically just a bunch of radishes and cilantro and some arugula. So we'll see how far we get for today. We still have to add some more compost into the other beds before we can really plant some of these. But if we have time to get around to it, we'll certainly try to, just because the sooner we can get these plants in the ground, the sooner we'll be harvesting that fresh produce. So this is the bed here that I plan on planting our shelling peas in. There's a little bit of spinach in here that's overwintered with no protection. Can't really see it with the shade right now, but it's doing really well. And I think I'm gonna actually do a big harvest on that today because I have some more of it in some other beds. But I do want to add some fresh compost to this bed before we get our shelling peas in the ground. And then right next to it, we have our new beds that we just made and filled with our soil. And this is going to be for our snap peas. So here's our snap peas. So we got a pocket full of shells, snap pea shells. I inoculated these last night, soaked them for about 12 hours. I did try to roughly, get the amount of peas that I knew I was going to plant. I think I have probably more, a few extra than I actually need. So we might have some extra to plant in some of the other garden beds. So let's go ahead and open this up and get some of these peas in the ground. So I do follow the square foot gardening method, and I don't have my strings on here yet to kind of section it off into 1 foot sections, but I'm just going to make a mark here at 12 inches, kind of a reference to go by. And in the square foot gardening method, we do 9 peas per square foot. So you get 3 rows of 3 seeds. With these 4x4s here at the end, I'm just going to do 1 here. So make about a pretty good size hole, about 1 inch deep. Still got a little bit of water left in here. I'm going to drain that out. And then we'll just take our pea seed and drop it in the hole. You can do more than 1 per hole, but I find that peas have a fairly good germination rate, so I'm not too concerned. I'm just going to do 1 per hole right now, and then if I feel like I want to go back later and add more, I can always do that. I probably should have thought about marking and stringing this off earlier, but it is what it is. The seed packet for these peas actually says plant them in rows spaced about 1 to 2 inches apart, and the rows should be separated about 18 inches. So they can actually be planted closer than these 3-inch spaces that I'm doing, but since we're not spacing them 18 inches apart in rows, this is kind of an alternative method. And the reason I like the square foot gardening method so much is because it allows you to really plant a lot more in a smaller area, right? If I was just doing, I don't know, I wonder what the math would actually be. If I, instead of doing 9 per square foot, if I just did 1 row spaced about 1 to 2 inches apart, you know, would I have more if I did it this way or more if I did it that way? Let's see how long this bed is. Just under 4 feet, I think. It's 44 inches. So if we were to space them at 1 inch apart, we'd get 44 seeds. And if we do this method, where we get 9 per square foot, we get 9, that's 18, is 22, plus another 6 down here is 28. We would actually get more if we did it the other way, but it depends how closely you space them, because that's at 1 inch spacing, and it says 1 to 2 inches. So if you did it at 2 inches, you'd get about 22, and if you did it at 1 inch, you'd get 44. So I don't know, it's kind of about the same, but this method is clean, right? It looks cleaner, you get more space between the plants. That's just what we do. So that's what we're doing. And we got a nice rainstorm the other night, so a lot of this soil is nice and moist and ready to go. So today is Tuesday, and on Tuesday mornings I teach a yoga class. Last week I didn't teach it because I wasn't feeling well, so it felt good to be back in that space this morning. And something that's been on my mind lately is that life seems to have its moments of ups and downs, and I think most of us can probably relate to that in some way. Life may not always be this steady, consistent uphill climb to achieve our goals, but it's more of a road course, right, where we kind of have to navigate through the turns and the elevations and the dips. So how do we maintain a stable and joyful mind, even during these challenging times? I think in today's world, people feel a lot of pressure to meet certain standards and expectations from other people, whether it be in your career or just in your relationships. But for me, yoga and meditation is really the one thing that has helped me to kind of come back to my own sense of purpose and to not get lost in the expectations of other people. A quote that I love from my teacher is, "Life is something to experience. Love is something to become." And this quote helps to remind me that our main goal or mission here in life is to not to acquire as many things as we can or to please as many other people as we can, but it's to evolve the quality of our being through focused intention, right? To become more helpful, to become more useful, and to really make this world a better place to live. So now we're just going to cover all these up. It's nothing like getting your hands dirty in the soil and looking forward to getting some snap pea harvests in the future. All right, so now let's hope that we have enough peas, because I still have not counted them. We'll make our holes and pop them in. Oops, I might need that pea. Not sure if I can spare it. I think we're either just going to have just enough or it's going to be very close. And I can feel the soil starting to warm up a bit, which is nice. All right, we need 17 more peas. Let's see if we can do it. I think we got it. 15, 16, 17. And we got 3 extra peas. I'm pretty dang good for not actually counting, but just eyeballing it last night. That's pretty good. So I'll put these extra 3 in here, just why not? Push these down and we'll cover these up. I think that's a pretty good example of how the intuition works, right? Like, I didn't necessarily count those peas last night when I was kind of preparing them to soak them. You know, it doesn't necessarily go off of logic. I could have sat there for 10 minutes and counted every individual pea, but that would have just taken me a long time to do that. So instead, you kind of just, you get a sense. And you just have this kind of this knowing. And that's the same way that intuition works. You could also call it muscle memory, right? When you do something long enough, you get really good at it. You don't really have to read the instructions anymore. You don't really have to necessarily follow the guidelines. Your body just kind of knows how to do it. But I won't say that I count peas every day. You know, that's not necessarily what I do for a living. So, you know, it just goes to show, it's like when you're kind of in that meditative state, you know, information just kind of comes to you. You don't really have to try to get it. I got all this nice spinach right here and I feel bad. I don't want to cover it up. It's not a whole lot. 2 or 3 right here, which are looking really good. And this will be my first fresh garden green of the season of 2025. Am I supposed to call this dirt? Or am I supposed to call it soil? Soil is probably the more respectful word to call it. Dirt is kind of like I guess the way you'd refer to your rebellious child. All right, here we go. We're gonna start down on that end over there. We've got our shelling peas here. So these peas are exactly what they're called. They're not meant to be eaten with the pod. The peas are meant to be shelled and then eaten like this. So the reason I like to grow these is because we freeze them and we get to keep these peas that we can add into our pastas and our soups or whatever all winter long. So easy to grow and fun to shell, and they're nice to freeze. Whoopsies. That one got 2. Oh well, I think we're gonna have plenty of extra for these shelling peas. I don't know why I soaked so many. I think I was thinking I would put them somewhere else too, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that. This thing is so rotted. All right, that's it for our shelling peas. Let's go see if we can find somewhere else to plant the rest of. I don't think I'm gonna have enough space to plant all of these, but let's see if we can find another place to plant some of them. Maybe even some buckets right here at the end of the bed. There's a space for about 2 buckets. All right, so this is a bucket we had from last year that already had something growing in it. So this has a mixture of peat moss, vermiculite, and compost. I've already taken out the soil from this bucket. I dumped it over, kind of mixed it back up, and then put it back in. So now all I'm gonna do is just add some of this fresh compost to it and kind of amend that in a little bit. And I do want to get it, I should probably get a shovel. I don't know what I'm doing. Hold on. All right, this should work better. Oh, this soil is, wow, there's a lot of water in here. I might have to get some other compost that's not so full of water, but that kind of shows how you got to make sure you have good drainage in these buckets. If it's going to get compacted anywhere, it's going to be at the base of these buckets, so it's good to kind of flip that out, break it up, and then put it back in. All right, so we got some nice compost here. And again, the idea is just to mix it into this bucket to freshen up this potting mix. And here I go again, not using my shovel, but I got gloves on this time, so it's all right. Even though, you know, people who wear gloves in the garden, they kind of, I don't know, depends on the job you're doing. You know, if you're planting seeds or even doing this, sometimes it feels good to get your hands dirty. So it's going to be the same idea. We've got 1 square foot, so we can do 9 peas. So it's a little bit different. I think, let's see, if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then what? How many more do we need? We need 5 more. So we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll drop them in. Whoopsies. 1 is done, but that one was really easy. Let's go on to some other ones now. So this has just got a layer of diced up leaves on top. I was using that as a mulch last year, so I want to get that off before we mix in the fresh compost. Okay. Lots of roots. These don't really matter so much. These will break down in the soil, so we can kind of leave them to just stay mixed in. But I do want to get rid of this kind of main stem, so I'm just going to pull that out. And we're going to lose some soil as well as, you know, some roots with that. Yeah, see how this bottom piece is just kind of, you know, really stuck together. Just going to want to break that up and mix it all in with that fresh compost that we have in this black container. I was always afraid to kind of reuse soil in potting containers, but you know, as long as you are amending it with new fresh compost and adding in some fertilizer, you should be good to go. And it saves a lot of work. I mean, this is filling up one of these white 5-gallon containers. It takes a lot of soil. So this is a way to save a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of resources. Go give this a quick little rinse just to kind of clean it up a little bit, and then we'll get this soil back in this container. And now we're just gonna refill it with our soil. Probably just gonna do 2 seeds per hole because I know I'm probably still gonna have extra. I don't know who counted these seeds. Oh boy. Yeah, the root system on these eggplants are a lot bigger than whatever else I had in the other ones. All right, that's number 6, but we have just enough peas to do 1 more bucket, so we might as well get it done. All right, so I think that's going to be the end of this week's video. In total, we got about 180 shelling peas planted and 200 snap peas. So I think we did pretty well for the amount of space that we have in this garden, and we're looking forward to getting a nice harvest from these in the upcoming months. If you like this video, give us a like, leave a comment below, let us know what you liked about it, and we'll see you real soon on the next one.